Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today is a sunny enough and warm enough day. I'm going to noise deaden the wife's 2020 Subaru Outback. Let's get started. For those of you who have been to my channel before, I already sound deadened the 2018 Subaru Forester. This is a new to us 2020 Subaru Outback Premium trim, and while it is already quiet, it can always be quieter. So again, we have the Noico material. This is the 80mm thick stuff. It's kind of a reflective foil material, and it's essentially a black foam that is pliable and malleable. You'll peel off the paper backing and stick it to the metal, and then this is a insulated foam. Think of this as basically putting a jacket on. This is going to both thermally and audibly insulate the doors. So that's what I'm looking to do today, because all I have is the foam. But these doors are pretty thin and very buzzy. And honestly, in my sound deadening of this guy, the doors made the biggest difference. Getting past on the left and the right, going along concrete barriers, going along curbs, traffic at intersections to the left and the right, stuff like that. This is typically overlooked. There's not too much deadening material in here, factory from the manufacturer. I'll be proving that as we crack this guy open. But the least amount of work and the highest yield, the highest return on investment goes to the doors. So let's go ahead and crack them open and we'll get started with making this car all the quieter. According to the internet, right in here, you see a little tab right there, and you have a little panel here. Using my Victorinox or an actual screwdriver, what you do is lift this hatch, and we have a Phillips head right there, and then pry that open. There will be two Phillips head screws, and this will come right off. So this one's, again, pretty easy to get to. This one, you're just going to pull away, and you can see that it's sloped right there. You can see it's sloped right here. So I just pushed in on that slope, and it just rocked itself out of place. Well, it looks like this one's broken, so we used some double-sided foam tape to put that back in place. That may have been why it came out so easy, but we have right there and right here. As I'm taking this first door panel off, what I did is I got a couple sheets of the Noico deadener, and I cut them into triangles and squares. So there's 3 pieces here. I cut them into triangles and squares, and I have them on the already hot engine, and that's going to allow them to do this and do it much easier. So forming it to the doors is going to be a lot easier if it's warmed up. If your engine's hot, aces. If your engine isn't hot, face them like this towards the sun, and the black and brown paper will actually heat this up pretty quickly, and you'll see that it's quite malleable and quite squishy, starting to ooze a little bit. So that will help with adhesion and forming to the doors that we're going to be applying it to. With both screws removed, we're going to move to the bottom of the door, and you'll see there's a little rubber gasket here. You can kind of get your fingers up in there, and we're going to be pulling the plastic away from the metal. We're going to be popping it at the bottom, the hinge. It essentially will sit like a hook onto a section of the door. So this is going to be our hinge. Just like opening a door, we're going to open it from the furthest point from the hinge. So let's go ahead and pop it free and show you what that looks like. So super simple. I held in here, and with this hand I held the metal. I thrust it away with this hand and tugged towards me with this hand, and you'll see the whole door panel came apart. You'll have to lift this rubber boot up out of the way. You'll be fighting that, but essentially you just grab and lift, and there's your door card. We have a blue and a pink mechanical connection here for the door latch and the door lock. We have an electrical connection for the window switch. And I believe that's it. So let's disconnect those electrical connections and get back to it. I suppose it would be beneficial to show you how I do that. So here I'm just going to pull away from the door, and then you can see we have a circle here. Let me make sure the door, there we go. So this will push into this ball slot, but it has to allow the cable to fit in there. Once it's in place, that essentially acts as a latch. It's going to hold it in place unless you get it at exactly a 0 degree. So line up that notch, otherwise it's going to hold it in place. We're going to do the same with the pink. We're going to thread it up, through, over, out. Those can just free float. They are color coded, and I believe well, the ball is different diameters, right? So you can't accidentally mess that up. Also, this is globbed with a bunch of yellow, and there's yellow there, so you do have a color indicator. As far as this electrical connection, ooh, very difficult to do with two hands. There's going to be, ow, right here is a tabby tab. You will squeeze tabby tab down, and that's going to allow you to pull that electrical connection. Once you do, the door card comes off. Tip for the video: it is much easier to lay this in the grass and scrub it clean than trying to go up against a door that's trying to wobble up against you and push away from you. Also, it's much easier to pour out all the kid crumbles by having it already off. So we have a vacuum, and we can go ahead and clean it up. With that car, I did some linseed oil on the black plastics, really made it shine, waterproof it, protect it. Basically acts as a clear coat finish for your paint, but for plastics, I don't think the wife wants that. But I will leave this for her to clean and do what she needs to do. Let's get back to the door. We have, it's kind of gummy, it's kind of sticky, kind of tacky. So I'm going to peel, they almost give you a thumb hold here. I'm going to peel just enough that I can shove my hand in there and start applying the deadening material to not this metal, but this metal. And we'll also need some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel just to make sure everything in there is nice and clean. It is 4 years old at this point, so I don't know what is or isn't behind there, but the chemically and physically cleaner the surface is, the better the Noico deadener is to stick in place. So let's go ahead and get that done. So as I said, we only need a little bit, maybe the size of your hand, and then a second portion here because there is a second opening here. And I'm going to be applying the silver finish, hopefully behind this to make the noise a little bit better. But you essentially want to be up against where the metal touches. You don't want to be in the middle of the door. You want it to be up in a corner, down in a corner, maybe here. And that's going to do the best reduction as far as noise is concerned. The other thing is you do not need 100% coverage. That's a great way to make the door heavier and stress the hinges and all and waste a bunch of money. So 20-30% coverage is going to give you the best bang for the buck, the best return on investment. You can do more if you'd like to, but I'm going to do maybe a little bit here, a little bit here, and a little bit there. All right, pro tip, have your window up. Once you get those up, again, clean it, and this is why. Behind that speaker is some kind of grease or oil, so would not have stuck quite so well without cleaning that stuff out. So I cleaned behind here, up in this corner, and in this corner, we're going to be applying the sheets. Let's do it. Tip for the video, the reason I started with the rear right door is so you can learn how to do it. You're least likely to interact with this door, right? So if you mess up or if you aren't as skilled at it, this one is the better way to learn it. But we have right up in there a little section. I don't know how well it's going to show. But up in this corner, we have a section, and down behind the speaker, we have that section. So we're good to go with that. We're going to essentially re-stick everything back in place. As you peel this off, what I would recommend is pinch it to itself like this. And that way you're keeping the same volume of material in place, and you'll just be able to stick it right back. This is just a moisture barrier. It doesn't do anything with sound. It doesn't do anything with anything really. But when you have rain and stuff going down your window, if it does permeate into the door, this prevents the humidity from coming into the car. And there's some drainage holes at the bottom. So let's go ahead and zip this back together and almost get the door panel on. With the moisture barriers just squished back into place, doesn't have to be pretty. It's going to be covered by this. What we're going to do now is flip it over. You can see they have some foam. You may recall with the door, there's very little inside it as far as noise deadening is concerned. So this is kind of all they give you with this. What I'm going to be doing is using the insulation foam, and it doesn't even have to be pretty. We're just going to cover the back side of this. That's going to do a couple of things. One, any noise that does permeate through. Ooh, nice. All right, hold on. Versus. Ting, ting, ting. Dun, dun, dun. All right, that was done with half of this sheet and 2 triangles. So we used 1.5 sheets, and it made that much of a difference to that door. Shiny. Anyways, what we're going to be doing now is the insulation foam on the back of this is going to, one, any noise that continues through this metal is going to be blocked. Think of it like an earplug on this side. We're shoving an earplug into the hole that is the door, and that's going to be keeping any noises that do get created on the metal or permeate through the metal. It's going to block them out. The second thing it's going to do is keep the ambient temperature out. So if it's cold, your cabin's actually going to heat up faster to a higher temperature in the same amount of time. Or during the summer, this is going to help keep the air conditioning in the car and the heat out of the car. It will also prevent your car from heating up as fast when you're not in it, ergo sitting in a parking lot for 8 hours when you're at work, like everyone does. No one sucks off the government's tit. And that's going to prevent the car from heating up quite so fast. And it's also going to prevent the air conditioning from transitioning out of the car by acting as a blanket, an insulator, to keep that temperature difference. So we have this and this is that insulation foam versus the thin stuff we did. So this will keep noises out. The other one will essentially prevent noises from being created. And what we're going to do is we have a rather lengthy roll. One roll should do about 2 doors in my experience. So what I'm going to be doing is cutting it right along here. This portion I'm going to cut and put up there. And you do want to leave an opening for the speaker, so that essentially covers all of it. If you want, you could cut another strip and fill in that area. The more surface area you have with this one, the more efficiently, the more effectively it's going to work. So you do want almost 100% coverage with this material. It does have a very thin plastic protector, and it is adhesive. It will stick in place. Maybe not so much on this foam. If you want to, you can rip these off. You just pull them. I'm going to leave them in place. I'm sure it'll stick well enough. So let's go ahead and cut it up. You'll have to forgive the vacuum in the background. We are tag teaming this car. So with a single section, one width, maybe 2 feet across, this should do the entire door. So this corner I cut in line with the trim here. That's going to fit quite nicely right there. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you'll notice I cut here. There's 2 reasons for that. One, there's a pretty prominent shelf right here. It's maybe a 3-inch difference between them, and that's going to be the armrest. It's also going to be the electronic control for the windows, and you're going to have to be able to reconnect that switch. So I went ahead and did a slice to compensate for the electronic switch right here and the armrest right there. The more contiguous this is, unlike a patch quilt blanket, the more monolithic this is, the fewer the cuts, the better it's going to work. think of it as a jacket, right? You don't have 17 random cuts in your jacket unless you're a 17-year-old who buys the pre-used jeans at full price. The other thing I'll have to do is cut a slot here, and I just feel for that bulge, giggity, cut a slot right there. It could be pretty prominent, and we're gonna have to pass those 2 mechanical linkages back to the door lock and door latch. So we should be essentially squared away. We'll also have to cut around here where the speaker was. We'll try and crush that into shape, maybe just do a small cut, but it'll look like this. Look like this. And again, everything just sticks into place. That double-sided, or the plastic backing, I left in place on this T-cut, and that's so it doesn't start sticking onto the mechanism and start messing it up. But it does allow me to connect my linkages, and then it covers that right back up. You do not want to cover inside this track. That's the hook that grabs onto the top of the door. And I believe this is the only white push connector nipple that is not along the perimeter of the door. So you'll just push that all the way through. This one just stuck into place. The circle that I cut here is now here at the bottom of the cup holder. So that's going to make it a little quieter and insulate it a little bit more. Anything that buzzes or vibrates in here is going to have a little bit of that material eaten up by the insulation. So we covered the majority of the door. Let's go ahead and hang it back up. So again, with the essentially hooks at the top of the door, it'll just hold in place. You do have your 3 connections. You have the pink and blue mechanical, the black middle of the screen electrical, and the screws are going to engage here and here through the door panel. So I just lift and hang onto those protrusions like this. And then you're going to rock it around until it starts seating, and then you'll start punching the door to get those white connectors to start connecting back up to the metal. So just by smacking the door into place, the door is functioning. I still need to put a screw here and a screw there, and you'll notice now I'm looking at that insulating foam. So you are going to have to punch a hole with the same screw. Should be sufficient. You may have to use something sharp like a Swiss Army knife. How about that? Pop it, and then these will engage and pull the door back into place. Shouldn't be a problem at all, but that is going to be there. And if cars will stop going by. Ah, nice. Toing, 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 toing. Dun, 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 dun. Doesn't take much, guys. All right, so the trick here with this one, all I did was use the screwdriver. I put this up against the foam and then gave it a hit on the back with my palm. That was enough to punch through the material, and then the screw went in quite simply. This one, since you added 10 millimeters of foam, the door panel is pulled away from the door 10 millimeters, right? So I'm trying to line up the screw with the hole, and it didn't work. So I essentially just hip checked it, pushing it in with my hip as I was trying to hold the door in and screw it down at the same time. That would line the two up, and it took a little bit of digging around, a little bit of battleship, and I was able to get that in place. But we are now squared away due to a dying foam battery and the fact that you've already seen what I'm going to do on that side. I'm going to go ahead and do that side. All right, so in the time frame of about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, we went ahead and completed this door off camera. So, I mean, a half hour to complete a row of seats, right? So you could do this in about an hour, especially if you're watching this video and know how to go about it. With this one, kind of the only thing I could mention again is you're going to hang it at the top. And I usually start at the side here. This one's going to give you the most trouble, one of those white nipples. Once you can line that up and punch it in place, between this index and that index, you know the door card should be in the right place, and you can just start popping all the way around. Once everything is popped into place, you know that your screws are going to line up. So it takes a little bit of finagling, really difficult to break anything if you're not digging your hands in there, messing around with wires and all. So pretty easy, honestly. You just have to look up a YouTube video on how to get into your individual make, model, year, and makes a, oh God, pretty noticeable difference. Hello, Tank. This is Tank, our 18-year-old sulcata tortoise. If it's warm enough to be doing this outside, it's warm enough for her to be outside. Yeah, in the orange strap. Makes it where not only do we see her, but they see her when she inevitably runs into the road. So we're going to be going ahead and doing that door. And it should be about the same. I went ahead and took off this guy already. We have 1, 2. Let's pull it. All right, and again, second door, same as before. We have the hinge up here. I had this hand here, pushed with this one, pulled with that one. I mean, you have to yank it pretty good and it pops free. This one's gonna have a few more electrical connections. We have 2 here, as well as 2 mechanicals here. And there is, do keep in mind, this one down here. That's going to be for your valet lights, I guess. So there's a light shining down, and when you open the door, it will illuminate here to show you puddles or dog shit or whatever, so you know not to step on that. But let's go ahead and disconnect all these connectors and start pasting. And again, we have 1, 2 mechanical, 1, 2, 3 electrical. This door panel is a lot easier to get into, so we're just going to peel the corners and lick and stick. This time, the large openings have a plastic door over them. That's to help keep the noise out. How about that? So you have the same white pull tabs right there that essentially you had holding the door on. So basically just a flathead screwdriver or a, thanks car, a prying tool if you have it. I do somewhere, I'll see if I can't dig it out, but we're just going to pop those free, and that'll give us the large hollow cavity to be able to apply the Neuco deadener. So again, with 2 triangles and a rectangle half sheet, so 1.5 sheets, I did a triangle here, a triangle there, and ooh, the barred owls are out. We have a family of barred owls that like to hunt our property and the property across the street. You'll probably hear them in the background here. But I did a triangle, rectangle, triangle, and you know, I'm gonna go ahead and cut another one of the rectangles and just do a square here, and then we'll do the same on the other side. Putting the tacky stuff back in line with the tacky stuff. The last thing we have left to do is the insulating foam on the back side of the door. So let's do that. Again, using our second roll, I'm able to do 2 doors, 2 of the front doors with it, and still have some remnants for hopefully the tailgate. Just laid the same width across. Cut the shelf for the electrical connections, which are going to be right up in there, and then left the backing on here so I can get into the mechanical connection. This one does have 1, 2 white connectors along the above the armrest, so there are a few more connection points on this guy. It is a wider door, probably 50% wider, so I'm going to see if I can't fill in a little bit, see what I can't do with that piece that I cut out for the speaker, and we'll go ahead and hang it back on its hinge. All right, back to taking the door to the door. Before we connect the door to the door, we need to make sure that the 1, 2, 3 and 2 mechanical connections are connected to the door before we connect the door to the door. All right, so all 5 of those connections together. She's still loose. I'm gonna make sure that I've lined it up as best I can along the hinge. This part seems quite proud, so I'm pretty sure I'm not quite lined up yet. But once you do get it aligned, in a way you can check is this guy is gonna have to engage there. So I am off by the least littlest amount. You can see here as well, I'm off by a little amount. So just play with the door and come over here and optically confirm that that peg can go into that hole, and pop it back together like this. And again, once you line those things up, just go ahead and pop all the way around. There's 2 of them hidden, I believe, here and there. So just push around a little bit more inside the panel than the rear doors, where you're only doing the perimeter. And then of course we have the screws that we still need to do. And remember, you have your little plate that will just pop into place. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and trust that you guys will be able to figure out the driver's side door. But as I said, recommendations, optically confirm your alignment before pounding the hell out of your door to put it back on. Do start with your rear door before you do your fronts, and then leave your driver's side door as your last one. If you're going to scratch the plastic or forget a screw or something like that, forget how to put it back together, or maybe have some issues, it's better to have it on any door other than the driver's door, because 100% of the time the car is being used, so too is the driver door, at least twice. So this is Outside the Target Demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by. For those of you who haven't seen the video series on the Forester, you're let's see, 2 rolls of the 10mm foam is $15 each, so that's $30, plus the box of the Noico, I think was like $30. So you're $60, $70 into this project, and it makes a substantial difference as far as noise is concerned. And between that and getting the ceramic window tinting done on the car, my car heats up and cools down much noticeably, objectively faster than without all that material. So this is going to be less than $100, and it's going to make a substantial difference in your car. It's going to make it seem like a new car, and for $100 one time, that's a hell of a car payment to get a new car. So as I said, this is Outside the Target Demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, leave them in the comments section below. Next time we will be tackling the trunk and the hood. So stay tuned. Catch you guys in the next video.